morning folks, and welcome once again to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today out for a bit of a bimble with little Lucy and little Rosie on this crisp December morning. It's the 2nd of December as I'm making this video, and we're officially in winter now. There's frost on the ground and it's certainly feeling a lot like Christmas. You know, it's getting that way now, isn't it? But what I've done today, I've decided I'll come out for a bit of a bimble with little Lucy and little Rosie. Be a bit like the old days, this Hot Potters, where we come out and just have a wander round. I'm currently on something that's known as the old mineral line, which runs from the Gidlow area of Wigan all the way through to a village known as Standish, which is about 3-4 miles away from Wigan. So we're going to take a walk around this mineral line because it's part of our mining heritage. I've not done a lot on the mining heritage of Wigan of late, you know, but I know a lot of you out there, you enjoy this style of video, so I thought today I'd do something a little bit different. I'd return to my roots, so to speak, and we'd do a video on some of the old relics from the mining heritage of the area of Wigan. So without further ado, I'm going to make my way along this line to our first little relic from this particular railway line. You sort of get two videos in one with this one, because I'm currently walking along the course of an old railway line and I'm going to be making my way to a facility that's known as a colliery washery. They built this washery in about the 50s and it lasted through until the 60s, when it was decommissioned and it was left abandoned. So what we're going to do today, we're going to take a walk and just see what remnants remain both of the line and of that old colliery washery. So without further ado, let's take a look at our first relic, shall we? And here we have our first little relic. Now, on first inspection, it would appear to just be simply a concrete slab on some kind of brick foundation. Just take a closer look there, see if we can see underneath. Look at that, that's a relic, isn't it? Castlemaine 4X. You don't get that anymore in this country, stopped making it 2010. Little bit of beer history for you there, Hot Potters. But I think there's more to this than just it simply being a foundation, because that there appears to be part of a telegraph pole that would have been in this area, and we'll just make our way further round here. There is on the other side of it a maker's name, which we'll take a look at when we get round there. But although it just appears to be a slab, like I say, set on bricks, I do think there's more to it. If anybody has any ideas what this was, or maybe you know the area a little bit better than I do know I get a lot of Wiganers watching my videos. If you know what this was, please feel free to leave a comment below. Just make my way out of here now, and we'll take a look at that maker's name. Which is here. There we have a maker's name, Dewsbury and London, which is embossed into a piece of cast iron into what this structure would have been. Again, you can see underneath it, the slab on this side seems to have been removed. It looks to me like this was some kind of weighbridge, to be honest. That's my guess on what this would have been. But please feel free to leave your comments below. Anyway, we're going to make our way now up the line, and we'll see if we can find our next relic from the mineral railway, shall we? So as we leave our first relic behind, we make our way along the course of the former mineral railway line, we should come to another little bit of a relic that Lucy's currently stood on. And we should be able to see an actual bit of the rails from the old mineral line, which cross over this little pathway that leads down to the main road. And I think if you go up that way there, where that gentleman's walking, it takes you to those cottages over there, known as Gidlow cottages. And then there's some allotments there in front of Gidlow cottages, or at the back. I think up there's a farm, and that's where this public footpath leads. But here we have some of the railway lines. Now, if you look at that one and that there, where there's that little depression there, just near that tarmac, it doesn't seem to be, you know, normal railway gauge. It's probably a narrow gauge track, that. Either that or these have been points. You know, I'm only going off the rails being very close together there. Yeah, these were probably a set of points. That's leading back down to where we've just come from, where we've seen that little structure that I think's a weighbridge. If anyone has any ideas of what that is, please leave your comments below. But yeah, we've got some remains of some actual railway lines here, so we're definitely on the right track here, pardon the pun. I'm going to make my way along here now. There's some more of the tracks there, you can just see them. I don't know why they'd be double. That's some more of the railway line there, it ends there. Like I said, if you uncovered that, I wouldn't be surprised if that's now a set of points, you know, for going on to a double track. But it's interesting to note that the tracks are not normal gauge. I'm just going to have to watch my foot in here because it's getting a little bit precarious underfoot. But yeah, a little bit of the old track. Many thanks to Mick Byrne, one of my followers, one of my subscribers, and he comments on my videos a lot. He mentioned to me, you know, that there's a little bit of railway line there if you make your way up that track. Still there, Mick, after all this time. Right then, we're now coming up to another little relic of this railway, which is hidden in those trees there, and it's a bit of a doozy, this one. It's quite interesting to take a look at, so I'm going to make my way through these brambles here now and join me on the other side. And this is what is hidden behind those trees, this curious little structure here, which we'll take a closer look at now. Now, I'll be honest with you, hot potters, I have no idea what this is or what it would have been used for. The front has got some pretty thickish steel plates bolted to it, and if we just take a quick look inside, it's like an archway with an opening round the back. I think it would have been deeper than that at one time, but it appears to have been filled with debris over the years. Remnants of a wall there that would have run round it, and it just peters out to undergrowth. Now, some people on the internet who've been around this area, they've theorised that this may have been an air raid shelter. I don't think it was an air raid shelter, hot potters, and I'll tell you for why. The line that this runs at the side of this was originally built in about the 1800s, and it would have served the Prospect colliery in Standish. But by 1932 it had been abandoned, and it just lay in ruins basically. And we'll make our way up to the back side of this here, and they only relaid the tracks in the 1950s. About 1952 they relaid the tracks. The newly formed NCB, the National coal board. And what their idea was to serve those 4 collieries with the washery. So there was no need to build an air raid shelter at the side of the railway lines. In the 50s the war was over with, so I don't know what this would have been, hot potters. I'll leave that one with you. Anybody who's worked in this area or is from Wigan, maybe you know what it is. We'll take a little look down here now, because at the front of that structure, or at the back of it, is another one of those concrete slabs. There's no trees growing on it, but back in the day it would have been something substantial, I should imagine. We're just making our way down here. Lots of bits of stonework and things like that, just thrown about in the undergrowth. And it's very difficult to imagine what all these little structures would have been. You know, they would have all had a job to do. A little bit of ironwork there. Don't know if that is post when this colliery and this line and all these things closed down or not. Just through those trees there is Gidlow Lane Cemetery. So we're very close to Boar's Head, that area of Standish here. Make our way back up this hill and take a look at this concrete slab from the front. I always found it fascinating looking at these remnants and imagining what there was back in the day. And they're very easily missed, you know, it doesn't take long for Mother Nature to regrow and take it all back. Is there a wall there, I wonder, that would have been built on this concrete slab? I mean, all these buildings, if they were built in the 50s, would have been prefabricated. Excuse me. Which is probably why they were so easily demolished. But again, who knows what this brickwork, just see it there, what that would have been. Really fascinating. Another remnant through there of a telegraph pole, so this building was probably substantial along this line at one time or another. It's just through there in front of you. You can't really see it that well on camera. But there's lots of stumps from old telegraph poles around here as well. Right then, I'm going to make my way down now. Get back on what was the track bed. And we'll continue our walk and make our way through there to where the old washery building used to be. Just a closing shot there of that slab on that brickwork. So folks, we've now left that little shelter and that's way behind us now. And we're making our way to where the actual Gidlow Washery used to stand. Now, I've got a photograph which I'll put in a moment for you, and you'll be able to see what it looked like during its days of operation. I'll put that photograph in for you now. And as you can see, it was quite a big facility. It would have to be to take coal from 4 collieries on a daily basis. I don't know how much coal it washed in a day. I'm sure there are facts and figures out there if anybody would like to research that. But we're now in the area where that would have stood, and we'll see what remnants we can find from that. Because I have another photograph here of what the facility looked like in 1980. And rather curiously, they didn't just demolish it all in one go. As is the British way, we tend to only half demolish things, don't we? We tend to leave little bits up, and that's exactly what they did with this washery. They just demolished the main parts of it and left 2 random bits, which was a tank and like a cone inside a metal structure. Anyway, I'll put the photograph in and you'll be able to see what it looked like in 1980. I'll do that for you now. Now that structure stayed there right up until about the 1990s apparently. And probably many of you who are watching this video will remember that on the skyline. And a lot of people apparently was quite sad when they finally did demolish it and take it down to ground level. Now the only thing that remains today from the washery is what's known as the concrete scar, which is the foundations. They didn't pull them up, they just left them there. Obviously undergrowth has taken its toll on where it used to be, and it's got covered and trees have sprung up and that, but it's still here underneath in this area. So we'll have a little bit of a mooch round now and we should be able to find either a bit of the old foundation or certainly some of the old bits of rubble from it, because I don't think they would have removed everything. I think these just knock pits down in that day and keep them at ground level and just cover it over. It was all done very roughly back then by the NCB and the successors to the NCB. Anyway, we're now in the area where I think the washery would have been, and I can see in front of me one or two little bits of metal sticking up, so I'll whip the camera around and we'll take a look at those, shall we? And there we have a bit of a girder stuck up, just been roughly cut off. There's another one just through there, just through those trees there. You can see it there directly in the centre of the shot there. You know, those probably go way down and are attached to the concrete that's underneath here. I can see lots of bits of rubble just to the side of this footpath here. Lots of pieces of concrete which would have come from the old washery. And I should imagine underneath here somewhere is that concrete ring, which the tank, the little low tank that I showed you in that photograph from 1980, where that would have stood on. But as I say, it's all got overgrown and covered since the 90s when it was finally demolished. You can see there, that bit there, big lump of concrete. Lots of rubble around this area. So I would definitely say that this is where the washery used to stand. Let's go and see if we can find some of the actual foundation, shall we? Because this can be seen from Google Earth. Well, the only problem with looking at things from Google Earth is when you actually get on ground level, it doesn't look the same. Oh, there's a little bit of concrete. Lucy just walking over there. You know, it's very deceiving when you get on ground level as opposed to looking at it on Google Earth. Here we go. This is the concrete slab to part of the washery. Well, it was much bigger than this, obviously. And you would have had rail tracks running through it, so who knows what this part is where I'm actually stood. Maybe this is roughly where that strange cone part that was left up here until the 1990s once stood. Again, if anybody knows this area better than I do, please feel free to chip in with your comments below. I want to make our way along here now, and we should come to eventually an old coal tip which dates, or predates should I say, this washery and the tracks being relaid in the 50s. Just make our way through there. We can see some more substantial pieces of concrete. which I think these bits of concrete that are in here could well be from the foundation of that low tank, which it used to be the particle tank, I think, and that the idea of that was that would capture all the sediment and all the rubbish out of the water so that they could recycle the water and use it again. Yeah, lots and lots of concrete. Yep, this is all that remains from that old washery. Amazing, really. I do happen to have a photograph of this facility being built in the 50s. So I'll put that in for you now. And you can see that concrete ring clearly visible there that the particle tank would have sat on. I'm calling it a particle tank, that's probably not its correct name. Probably get a load of ex-miners come on now and tell me what it really is called, but for the purposes of this video, I'll call it the particle tank. Here we have another concrete foundation from what would have been part of the Gidlow Washery. And as you can see, the facility would have covered this whole area. Back down there where there's those other concrete ruins and little bits and pieces that have been left in the trees. So it was a huge facility, this. You know, it was massive when you come to look at it. You know, but then again it would have to be to serve all those collieries. Make our way through there, and I think there's another concrete slab just been left upended. As I say, a lot of this was prefab. You know, it came in sections. Again, this would have probably been some kind of little room, some kind of shed. No idea what would have been stored in here. Lots of little remnants from this facility known as the Gidlow Washery. Right, you now join me as I make my way across another little track that leads from the main road that leads up into Standish up to Gidlow Cottages, which is just up there. We're going to cross that now, make our way through here where it's getting quite muddy now because the frost is slowly melting. But we're going to make our way through here. That ice just gave way then, just as I managed to get across it. And we're now entering that coal tip that I reckon is from about the days of the Prospect Mine. I don't think this had anything to do with the NCB works that we've just looked at back there. I'm now on a bit of a concrete plinth, which I'll just show you. I think myself, I do apologise, it gets a little bit dark here with the light. I think that's the roadway into this old tip. So it may well have been used in the 50s. You know, who knows? But all beneath me here would be all that coal spoil. I certainly know that this appears on old Ordnance Survey maps from the 1930s and the late 1800s. So it's been here quite a while. Rather curiously, there's a pipe that runs, big metal pipe that runs all the way along that. We'll go down and take a look at it. And if anybody knows, who's from this area, what this metal pipe is, maybe you can tell me what it is. And before anyone says, it's not the soup pipe that leads up to the Heinz factory though at Kit Green. Don't want anybody coming out with anything like that. Make our way down. And it's a fair old substantial pipe, this. Don't know whether it's a remnant of the old colliery workings and that around here or not, but there you go. It goes under the fields there and way off over into Standish. Disappears under there. Anybody knows? Leave your comments below. Come on, Rosie, we're not going that way. We'll make our way over this tip now. And we'll slowly head out to Standish, walking the old mineral line. Now, once we get so far up this line, I'm going to cut this video simply because the closer you get to Standish, the more this line disappears due to development work that's happened since the 1960s. Obviously, land got sold off, former colliery land, and they've built on it. So you only get pockets of the line. You know, obviously private, it's now private property, you can't just go wandering about like I'm doing now in those areas. So we'll cut this video shortly after this tip, which we'll take a look at in a moment. I'm still on that concrete driveway, so I don't know whether or not only part of this tip was still in use in the 60s, or whether indeed they used it all. Looks like there's been a lot of scrambling motorbikes on here. They always make for places like this, don't they? And I'm in two minds with it because it does nose it up for dog walkers when you get people coming on motorbikes. But it's better than being on here, I suppose, than being on playing fields and things like that. So, double-edged sword. Again, why not leave your thoughts below? I'm encouraging you hot potters to interact with me in this video. Right then, we'll whip the camera around, we'll take a quick look at what's here, which there isn't much to look at really, and then we'll push on. And this is that colliery tip that we're currently on. There's little Rosie, little Lucy having a mooch, and that's what we're going to do as we walk forward. As you can see here, all that stuff, it's all the waste from underground. Now probably what they did, thinking about it logically, is all the particles and waste and bits of rubbish that they got out of the tanks at the washery, they probably just topped this old coal tip up with them, and that's why it's so high now. But there's not really a lot to see on this old coal tip. It's more impressive when you look at it from Google Earth. If anybody wants to punch that in, all you need to do is just put in Gidlow in Google Maps and up it'll come and you'll be able to see a bird's eye view of where we're walking. Right then, I'm going to get back on the line and we'll do a little bit more walking and talking and we'll wrap this video up, hot potters. Right then folks, we've left that old coal tip way behind there and we're back on what was once the track bed to the old mineral line, and I'm heading in the direction of Standish. I'm about halfway between Gidlow, where we started this little video and this little bimble, and Standish. Unfortunately, hot potters, this is where our video ends, and the reason for that is that this line closed in about 1963, 64, something like that, when they did away with the old washery and the Robin Hill drift mine closed in Almond Brook. And after that, they started selling land off for new housing developments and new building projects, especially in the village of Standish, which is where currently land is at a premium. So there's been a lot of building work that's sort of encroached onto what used to be this mineral line, and you can't get in those areas anymore, simply because the areas are now private. There are little pockets of what used to be the mineral line hidden here and there in Standish if you know where to look. We will go and explore them at some point, but not today. So, Hot Potters, all that's left for me to say is that I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. It's been a bit like the old days, hasn't it, where it's just been me, you, little Rosie and little Lucy out and about. So, I'm going to leave it here, and I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you on the next one. So, until then, as always, from me, it is bye-bye for now.